Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Sit Down and Shut Up. Hope you're all doing well. Happy Tuesday. Today we got Braviator on. Let's bring him on. I think it's Braviator, right? Let's bring him on and ask. Hey, Braviator, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool, cool.
Awesome, awesome. So, how's it going, man?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good, good, good. Cool. So I was looking at what you were talked about, and it sounded like you're looking for some advice on, how to open up opponents, how to start pressure, right? Because you're playing Geef, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So right now, how do your games kind of go? Is it like you kind of have to walk them down, and then they have to make a mistake, and you punish them for it, and kind of get the ball rolling from there, or how does that work?
Yeah. So the less mistakes they're making, obviously the
Oh,
harder it is
nice.
for me to really find that open.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, and Geef is tough too, right? Because like you do have to play the patient kind of neutral game, right, to get in.
Mhm.
Once you're in, though, it's like headbutt city, right? Like you just mix it
Yeah.
up, and it gets a little easier to deal with, right? But if you're
hmm
stuck against someone that's able to kind of effectively play footsies with you, right, or anti-air you when you try to jump, because Geef has to jump, right? It's part of the game.
Yeah.
And then you get stuck in the corner, then it's getting tough, right? So, okay,
Yeah.
cool. So what we'll do is I'll invite you to a custom room. We'll run a first to three. Kind of get a sense of where you're at, what you might be struggling with, and all that. And then after that, we'll do a little replay review. So we'll take a look at one of our games as well as one of the replays you sent me. I haven't looked at any of them yet, so it'll be live for me as well. Right? We'll do a
Cool.
replay review. Do it live, right? And then after that, if there's any specific situations that I think we need to dive into a little bit more, we can do a little lab work, right? Hop into the training room and take a look at that. Then if there's time after, we'll run it back, run another first to three, and then see if any of the advice I give helped or not. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Let me create a room and get you invited. Hey, anything big? Well, thanks for the sub. Flash, how's it going? Good to see you guys. All right. All right. Should get you invited there.
Yep.
Cool. All right, cool. So go ahead and queue up. I'm gonna deafen in Discord, mostly so I don't impact anything you're doing by talking, because I tend to talk a lot during the segment. um, so not playing influence anything you're doing. Secondly, I
Yeah.
may take a little bit to rematch, so the timer may run down to like 1 or 2 seconds. Don't worry, I'm still here, but a lot of times I'm kind of articulating thoughts and all that, so that I'm kind of preparing myself to talk about it during the replay. So,
All
cool,
good.
man. Good luck.
Yep.
All right. I think it's been a minute since I played Braviator. Don't really haven't played them in a while for sure, but Honest Geef Gaming though. All right, hopefully my controller is set. All right, guitar combo. Ooh, whiff is kind of tough. Yeah, let's see how they do in the corner here. Okay. It's tough to deal with that light pressure as a Geef, because like you don't really have a, a reversal option, right? And then once you finally do, okay. Anyway, so once you finally do, it can be kind of slow, right? The level 2 takes a while to get there, and then you have to derev otherwise, and light pressure kind of blows that up. So what I'm seeing right now is that the neutral game aspect, they have to kind of walk forward, right? Obviously. Oh, nice. Oh, demon. Give me the reset. Okay. Oop. Oh, I should have swept. Oh, what happened there? No anti-air? Okay, I gotta get my meter back here. Oh, okay. Alright, so I see what they mean though, right? It's like if I'm standing outside this range, not really quite sure how to approach, what buttons to press. Oh, nice. I'm dead. So, only honest fair neutral around. And it's Geef Gaming though, right? Like, he can't get in with anything else. He has to beat me by, Okay, I'll move my mouse in a sec. Thanks, Splash. I had to move my mouse and then got level 3. Appreciate that. Nice. Oh. I might be dead here. Oh, that was nice. So, I mean, again, like, I'm trying to play neutral within what I think they're kind of looking at, or they're running into. And I think what ends up happening ultimately is that if I do make a mistake, I'm dead, right? Like, there's no question about their ability to convert those things. But if I play a little bit more patient zoning here, right? Try to whiff punish stuff. Oh, that was sick. Nice. Can you start a combo there? Oh, I'm dead. So, I mean, again, I don't think they're doing anything necessarily wrong in neutral. I could be probably playing better, but not checking drive rushes at all. Ooh. I do think the drive rush and heavy punch is a little bit tough, mostly because like it loses to that low, right? Which Ken is going to do anyway. Unless I misspace it, I guess. Oh, no punish from my part. Uh-oh. Man, what am I doing? Okay, so what I will say is that I think the neutral game overall is okay in terms of how they're walking forward, right? They're trying to contest space correctly with some of the buttons that they're pressing. The reason I'm not doing so well right now is because I'm not really responding to or respecting the space that they're they're controlling, right? I'm kind of walking into that range and getting hit. So I need to actually back up a little bit here. Okay. Oh. That was sick. I'm gonna lose. Braviator's gonna teaching me what to do now. But they're actually mixing up the SPD pretty effectively here, right? Like they're gonna beat me in this set probably. Oh, I thought not block that. That driver is really effective, huh? Oh my goodness. Uh-oh. I'm not sure what happened there on that throw. Looked like he whiffed it. Oh, he's still not dead, huh? See if they can kill me. Oh, I'm dead. 3-0. Alright, so let's bring him back on. It looks like you'd be training me now from now on, huh? So there's a couple of things we talk about, but for the most part, I did pretty well, right? I wasn't really able to respect the space that you're representing with the drive rush stand heavy punch for the most part. So because of that, when you would drive rush in, that seemed to work pretty well against what I was trying to do. But I think your best usage for the most part was actually good control with the stand medium punch, right? So that's your target combo that you were using pretty effectively there. And then you also didn't really mix in SPD too much, but I think it was effective enough, right? The main thing I would think you were probably getting, I wasn't really doing a good job of, was the zoning aspect. So maybe if we run it back later, we can try that. But do you feel like when you run into someone that's zoning you, you have a hard time kind of getting around that?
Yeah, because I feel like what happens is a lot is that, like you said, I do lean a lot on the standing heavy punch. So if they know how to like effectively mix that up with lows, it can really trip me up.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you tried to drive rush at the wrong spacing, where your armor wouldn't, well, not armor, but like, the button was still, you end up too close before the hitbox came out. I would be able to tag you with a low, right? So I'd be able to check your drive rush with a low. It's actually pretty effective, mostly because I can't stand too close because your buttons will get me, right? Zangief's drive rush isn't like super long or anything. So in order for me to check that effectively, I actually have to stand a little closer, which I don't necessarily want to do, right? So anyway, let's take a look at game 2. I think was probably the one. Let's see. I think this one's probably the right one to look at. I dropped a super in this one. I think this is it. Let's take a look at this one. Alright, so I think for the most part, just focus here on what was working for you, right? So if you look at like that spacing you were drive rushing at, right from here, it's actually kind of difficult for Ken to contest this, right? So I think what Ken actually should be doing here is sweeping you, right? So if we look at this here.
Oh, sorry. Could you share your screen?
I'm totally not sharing in Discord.
Oh no, you're good.
Hold on, 1 sec. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
I was like, I know I forgot to do something. All right, so let's start this back over. So I'll go back to here. Oop.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what's happening here. Why am I not able to? All right, restart this thing. All right, let's take a look. All right, so the spacing you were using drive rush at, right? What I was talking about is this is pretty good, right? So from this space here, I mean, Ken can do one of two things, right? You can try to check your drive rush, and he should be using a sweep. I should be using sweep here, but you'll eat a fireball, right? Typically. So from this spacing, it's a little tough. Now, I wasn't throwing too many fireballs, so I think it's okay here. But when I did throw fireballs at this spacing, right, if I threw a fireball there, like I was thinking, I should be doing, you would have gotten clipped by this, right? So if it's definitely a player thing, like I was not throwing with many fireballs, right? So if that's the case, then I think this works pretty well. But what I was saying on stream is that I should be, like, I can't, in order to check this for the most part, especially if you're doing this, it should be a sweep, right? So if you see your opponent adjusting to that spacing using sweep here, you probably want to get away from doing this or try something else, right? The other option would be for the Ken to stand a little closer, which might be the right thing to do here, right? If he's standing at this range, more or less, because he can't really contest with normals. So if he's inside of that range, then try not to do the drive rush, right? Because your drive rush should get checked, right? So from here, if I walk forward, right? Now, I know you're going to drive rush here, but to try to illustrate the point, so if I walked forward here, right? So if you don't do the heavy punch there, it has to be a low, obviously. But if you do the heavy punch there with crouching medium kick hits you, right? It's going to get a combo for Ken, right? So it should be this. right? Which is what I did to you a few times, I think, if the range wasn't quite correct, right? So if I'm able to get the crouch medium kick out before your button comes out, right? But there were times where it was far enough where I wasn't able to check with that, and I think if your opponent is able to recognize that with sweep, then it is something you'll have to adjust to, right? Otherwise, I thought it was pretty good usage, right? You're able to get in pretty effectively with it. So, you know, again, it's definitely a player and kind of matchup dependent thing. I think if the opponent is throwing fireballs, like if you're against like a Gala or a Kuma, I think this is a little bit tougher because you're gonna probably get checked by the fireball as it's coming in. I think it's kind of tough to try to time that up with the fireball to get you through your armor. But if you can do it, great. But I think that might be a little bit tough. Now, again, if they're not throwing fireballs, you know, do this all day, right? I couldn't deal with it, obviously. So, all right, cool. So getting back into it here. Oops. All right. All right. So effectively getting me into the corner here. I think I don't punish this sweep. Right. I try to do something else. Got to be careful about the sweeps though here because you are pretty minus. Ken does have a good sweep here, so unfortunately for you though, like since your startup is longer than 10 frames, right? That's why this sucks for Geef. So you should be counter sweeping here. So you do have to be careful again, character dependent. Also the spacing here. So you may need to choose a different button here. I think for Geef, you could probably get away with like a crouching medium kick or something. Maybe even crouching medium punch could reach from here.
Yeah.
So, something like this. Oh, maybe not. Might have to be that. Let's see. Yeah, like that. Something like that.
Okay.
Might be the way to go. I don't think you get anything off of that other than that punish counter, but at least it's something, right? You don't let me sweep for you for free, basically. So,
right.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, so here I think I'm just trying to get you to whiff a button. You do, and I don't punish it, right? Right, super late on that. But anyway, good walk back. All right, so here's something that you kind of have to be careful about overall, generally speaking. And I don't tag you with this too often, but it is something that a lot of people run into, is that this block happens right here, and you're kind of too far for a throw, right? Like I can't walk up throw you. But people will just back up, will start backing up, right? Or in this case, you press the button. In my head, I thought you were backing up. I'll talk about it anyway. You do have to be careful about backing up in that situation overall because you'll get tagged like this. Although I think for this right here, the reason you do get tagged is because there's a little bit of delay behind your button, right? Which kind of makes sense because you can't quite mash in this situation because you'll get hit, right? If I mash. It. So. But the unfortunate thing here is that Geef's stand medium punch is kind of slow, right? For to reach that. So
I think I was reacting late to the whiff throw because usually that's what I punish that with.
Yeah. So if I from here, right there, right?
Yeah.
Like that would have definitely worked if you had pressed there. You don't, and then you block, which is fine, and then you just press anyway. So, but I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, if I elect not to press there, then it's fine. But anyway, take a combo there. This was sick. Wake up SPD, always cool. I think that this in particular is actually pretty good against someone that is trying to dash up for you against you like that, right? Because the range is deceptive, right? So like you grab me from like here, and I think the light SPD range is like out here, right? It's pretty far.
Yeah.
So a lot of what this typically, the adjustment that your opponent should be making here, if you are doing wake up SPDs though, should be to actually drive rush immediately, right? So if I did a stand heavy punch drive rush and hit you with buttons, that would prevent the SPD, right? So if your opponent starts changing to that aspect, you do have to be careful about the wake up, right? Now again, if they're doing this kind of stuff where they're like, oh, I'm going to respect your wake up or not really take a media option, then this stuff's going to work great, right? Because it's a 5-frame startup and it's going to tag me every time, right? So it's good stuff. All right, good. Unfortunately, your dash kind of gets checked because you kind of dash up.
Yeah, I think I dropped the drive rush cancel out there. Yeah, I think that was what it was.
There was no drive rush after. Yeah. So I throw the button out because I kind of react to the dash thinking that you're not going to be able to recover in time, and it works out right. Now, if you had blocked here, it would have been fine, but you tried to press the button, unfortunately. All right, good block. Right, so you got to be careful about, like I was saying earlier, right? That drive rush heavy punch you were doing, that space might be a little too close, right? Like I can tag you from here, right? Because your hurt box extends a little bit on this, right? Like if you look,
Yeah.
So right, that sweep exchange again, and I drop the target, drop the link here. Right, so again, just have to be careful about that. I couldn't cancel obviously because I don't have meter, but I did have to check it, right? So again, just be careful about using that too often if your opponent is making the adjustment. Right, so that was actually pretty good, right? So I was talking about that fireball potentially hitting your armor here. The reason that worked though is because of the spacing, right? So I'm too far. I mean, I should be. In my head, I was thinking I was safe to throw a fireball here, right? But from this distance, if you drive rush in, obviously it works out. Right?
Yeah.
And Ken has a below average fireball anyway, so I did the light, which has like the least amount of recovery, and it's not enough time to recover from this, right? So. Good. Alright, plus frames. Okay, don't tech, that's good. So yeah, I mean, usage of that target combo on counter hit confirm, pretty good. Can't complain about that at all. Right. And then right into the DI to kill me, right? So, you know, obviously the real meat of how I ended up dying here was mostly right here, this interaction.
Yeah.
Right, so I burn out, and then I can't really do anything, right? I have to try to get out of the corner, can't really throw fireballs, because you're just going to walk up, right? So, anyway, a lot of that stuff was working for you, right? I think if I had to nitpick some stuff, it really comes down to space selection on that drive rush, so just making sure that you're not going to get checked low.
Cool.
All right, so worked out there, wasn't able to check. Right, so I think if you're gonna live by that drive rush, you're probably gonna die by that drive rush too, right? So again, you just gotta watch the spacing. That's all it really is. I mean, if you want to try to make a read there, right? The main issue though is that because you don't do an instant drive rush, it kind of telegraphs it, right? So you're parrying here, probably expecting another fireball, right? Like you get the parry and then just mash the drive rush through. But because the blue shows up first, it kind of primes your opponent. Well, at least for me anyway, it primes me to think, oh, okay, the drive rush might be coming here. So you're ready to check, right? So. That's an interesting lariat lifts there. So if I think if I come down earlier. Oh, okay. It might just be because of the minus. So, or I don't actually know why that doesn't hit, but I guess it just worked out for me there. Alright, so that one worked out. Don't anti-air that well. Ooh, that's what punish. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Right. So obviously I'm not interested in anything regarding a meaty here because of your level 3. So you do a pretty good job of like not letting me get away with stuff like this, so that's good. I don't punish that, unfortunately. I like the idea though, so if I'd elected to press a button here, right, on wake up to try to check this driver, it's just gonna get me, right? So instead of backdash, which ends up dying. I think, like, honestly, like, this spacing, it probably would tag me. Let's see. Which SPD did you do?
I think I meant to do level 3 there. Just gonna look at my input. I think that...
It might be, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's actually would have been worse if that did happen. Because I did end up backdashing here, right? Kind of expecting something out of the drive rush. If that was the super, then it probably would have worked out not as good for you, right? Had time to punish and all that. From here, though, I think the issue is that I just press a button that doesn't reach, right? So if I did literally anything else here, like you're still in recovery, still for like 54 frames, right? So, but yeah, if it was the super there, that backdash would have worked, right? So it is something you do have to be, and that's the Geef life, right? You pick a spot to try to hit that level 3, whether it be on wake up or out of a drive rush, something like that after a jump potentially. And then as the opponent, I have to backdash it or jump it before, right? So what that means, though, for you as a grappler, though, and you kind of talk about how to open people up, one of the things that Geef really kind of warps the game around is his level 3, right? So as soon as he has that, my entire game plan has to change, right? And you can take advantage of that, which you've been doing, right? So, like, I can't really take Oki anymore, right? I have to do a lot of neutral jumps and stuff, so, waiting for that to come up and then, anti-airing me is perfect, right? So this is good. Quite anti-air there, I should be. Right, so perfect, right? This is exactly what you should be doing here. So at some point, right, you do, I mean, I guess you're ahead, right, at this point. There's not really a reason for you to kind of make that hard read in particular. But if it was the other way around and you were behind, it might be something worth doing to go for that level 3, right? So
yeah,
you have to do it eventually. I think you do it once in our set, right? So you do have to use it at some point. So yeah, that's tough. So I think you were kind of thinking about that drive rush, stand heavy punch from here.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, just sort of autopilot without looking at it.
Yeah, gotta be careful with the burnout here. But you land the jump in here. Unfortunately, not able to convert, but
Yeah.
Right, we'll go for the hard read here and get blown up for it. So I think right here though, I don't really have anything too much to really nitpick other than the drive rush, this drive rush pressure here, right? So space it well, it's gonna work, right? Relying it too much though, you're gonna start getting checked, right? So if you start seeing opponents kind of standing a little bit closer, expecting this, as opposed to respecting your buttons, then you actually have to be careful about using this and start using more of like stand medium kicks and other stuff to poke through, right? Try to get them to move. Because if Ken's standing too close for this, right, outside of your sweep range, but like just outside your sweep range, this is going to get checked, right? So you have to be careful. Cool. All right. So any questions so far you think of?
No, yeah, that's good because I guess like that's the I don't know, I feel like I don't like watch replays enough to like get a sense for like why the stuff I do works sometimes. So it's good to get that, especially for like the spacing for the drive rush.
Definitely, because you're using a tool that works, right? So it's like, oh, I didn't really think about it, but there is a little bit of nuance, or there can be in situations where, especially against like a Shoto where space matters, right? So like, there could be times where you're playing and you're like, oh, this is working great. All of a sudden it's not working, and then you're like, wait, what's going on? And a lot of times it's because of that, right? There's a spacing adjustment that gets made, and then you have to react to that, right? So. All right, cool. So let's take a look at this. This is the first one you sent me. I think this is just a ranked match, it looks like. So let's take a look at what happens here. GF disaster piece. All right, so here's what happens here. Yeah, so that is something I think you have a bit of a habit of, is to the parry into the drive rush. So you do have to be careful about that.
Yeah.
So, and definitely too close here, right? So I think you weren't expecting the forward dash, right? So, but even if he didn't forward dash here,
too close,
too close, right? So if the Terry didn't forward dash or saw this parry coming, they would likely just have to do a sweep or something, or a low. Like they would just check your drive rush from here, right? So instead, since they're point blank, they'd check you with the jab. All right, so take a look at here. You use Geef's armor pretty well, I think, like especially against the burn knuckle here. Like this, your main move here, I guess, works pretty well. The spacing though, let's take a look here. I think is mostly okay. Maybe the Terry is able to sweep you here if he elects to not do the burn knuckle. So let's see. There's that. Oh, he's already doing the burn knuckle. Alright. I'll have to wait a second here. Alright. So, again, just a spacing thing. Got to be careful about it. I'll try to point that out, less and less because it's pretty obvious now, I think. But that is how I think that's going to show up a lot in this game. So, right. So again, this works really well, especially at these kind of MRs where people are kind of just letting things rip. You know, Terry is pretty close to 1600 here, but I think he lets it rip because of the spacing allows him to do that. But the armor, getting the armor here, because you do get the armor after what, like charging for not that long, right? You don't have to charge too long to get this.
It's pretty quick, yeah.
Yeah. So being able to do that is good. So, now, if I'm the Terry here, I would definitely try to make the adjustment to that drive rush overall. So let's see what happens. That's a pretty good adjustment there, right? So
yeah,
you go for a drive rush into a non-cancelable button, which unfortunately is kind of Geef life, right? So like,
yeah,
you have to do that. Although you can go into like, was it stand light punch or crouching medium punch?
Or
I think
if I just hold the heavy punch for long enough,
yeah,
if they time the DI wrong,
you
yeah,
can eat the DI, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you do have to be cognizant about what your opponent's doing on wake up when you drive rush in. Right?
Yeah.
'Cause I know a lot of Geefs will go for like drive rush sweep or like drive rush like wheel kick and stuff. And
Yeah.
those will get beat by wake up DI, right? So they're actually just going to DI after they see the green, right? And they're kind of just making a guess, right? They have to.
Right.
So right here, I'm like, oh, I'm going to DI and see what happens, right? So
Yeah.
Terry combo. All right, so corner defense, we didn't talk about it too much. I was saying on stream, it's actually pretty difficult to deal with light pressure as Geef without meter, or sorry, without super,
Yeah.
right? Because you can't derev, it's gonna get beat, right? So the best you can do is just kind of block out the string. What you can be trying to do here is you can just be delay teching through this pressure if you think they're gonna go for a throw. I think Geef's 4-frame is his crouching light kick, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, unfortunately, I think like a delay button here is a little tough for Geef overall. You're obviously not going to get a reward out of it because it's crouching light kick, right? You don't get anything really.
Right.
But something you can do, and let's see what this Terry does here. Okay. So, in this case here, actually, so let's take a look. So Terry goes for a stagger pressure setup, right? So he goes for this into that, right? So what that means, though, is that a delay button would have gotten blown up, right? Or a delay option would have gotten blown up. So if you delay tech after this jab right here. So you delay tech on, let's see. Oh, you probably just use light punch, light kick to get up, right? Or to roll back.
Yeah, yeah, I was back rolling there.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you just like to block, which is fine. If you had gone for a delay tech after this, or actually you do the delay button here. So that's exactly what happens, right? You go for a delay light and it gets blown up by the stagger pressure, right? So this sequencing typically is designed to beat delay options, right? So the delay that is built in from the light punch into the crouching medium punch in Terry's case, which should be a 6-frame if I'm not mistaken. So 4-frame and a 6-frame, the gap is just enough for your delay option to start up, right? So if you delay text or delay button here, you can get blown up. Now the Terry is a little bit late, and you're actually a little bit early for the button. So let's see how many frames here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so actually the Terry's late here is what happened, right? You're actually fine for your delay button. So he ends up trading, right? Which is, again, I think a win for you as Geef here because this happens, right? So now you have space a little bit. But yeah, that's something you'll have to deal with as Geef, make that decision. I do think delay options or just blocking it out are typically going to be good though, right? You can take a couple, you can take 1 or 2 extra throws that most characters can't just because you have a little more health. So be willing to do that. And just be ready for the low of some kind if and when they go for a shimmy, right? So if you're committed to taking the throw, all you have to do is be ready for the next option they give, right? So like, oh, I'm going to take a throw here. So if they back up at all, or I'm going to wake up with a button or something like that, just be ready for that, right? So you do a good job here defending this, right? Unfortunately, fortunately for you, the Terry kind of messed up their offensive sequencing here, but
so if he presses that earlier,
yeah.
it doesn't trade.
So what should be happening here is after the Terry presses this, he should be pressing the crouching medium immediately after, right? Like that. So you see how you got counter hit there, right? So he would just, from there you would drive rush cancel or whatever if you're ready, right? So again, that sequencing is specifically designed to beat delay options. So your actual way to beat that typically is actually with a wake up button, right? So you don't have the delay button here. You can actually use a wake up button, right? So if I reset this from here, And I think Geef's crouching medium kick is what is it, 7 frames or something? Let's see. 9 frame. That might work. Let's try it. I don't really play Geef, so I can't really tell you, but typically a wake up 7 or 8 frame is typically what you want here. So let's see what happens if we go for it here. So switch to you. Yeah, okay, so you actually get tagged on that, right? So wait, did I do that right? Let's see. Yeah, so I think it just has to be this. Yeah, so you do something like that. Right? So this isn't typically your first defensive option because mashing on wake up's typically kind of bad. But if you see your opponent going for this kind of stagger pressure, then this is your option, right? So you, right, and then you can go from there, whatever offense you want to go from there, right? So that's typically how you would beat it. Now, if you're playing a character with a low forward drive rush, right, you would low forward drive rush, get out of the corner, right? So Geef has to obviously play that a little different. But for Geef defense-wise, just getting back to neutral is a win, right? Especially you don't have meter yet, right? You don't have level 2. You can't really derev against 4-frame jabs, right? So anyway, trades out here. Guys, stuck in the corner. Do you react? Let's see. Nope. Tough. Yeah. I mean, that is what it is, right? I mean, the Terry's kind of just puts buttons in your face, right? You just gotten hit.
Yeah.
You actually try to jump, right? So,
Yeah.
He DI'd kind of randomly here. He tags you. No big deal. All right. So back to the same Oki situation. All right. Goes for overhead here, but I think he's still plus. Or you're plus, right? So you can press. You don't, right? So it can be tough, I think, to defend in the corner here, especially against a character like Terry and the way this guy's playing, where he's pressing a lot of buttons in your face. But some of it does have to be recognition on your part when you think it's safe to take your turn back, right? So Geef kind of has to fight this by pressing his 4-frame right here, right? So you block the overhead. It's not meaty or anything, right? He doesn't land a meaty overhead. Kind of manually times it, right? So typically, if he doesn't have a setup here, right? If there's no like kind of set play that's coming into this, you can generally assume that it's going to be a manually timed thing that may not be 100% meaty, right?
Okay.
So, in fact, he's actually really, really late here, right? So if you had mashed against this on wake up, like you recognize this is coming up, you actually tag him here. So, again, this is kind of a player thing, and I'm just highlighting this because it's a situation where I think you were blocking and thinking that it was something you couldn't press against, and this might be a situation where if you run into it later where you see this type of thing, you might be able to get out of it, right, and kind of jab through the fake pressure, right? So if you'd recognize that this was it was coming, right, you actually were able to kind of mash out a string to get out of this, right? So again, it's tough to know in the moment, right? It also, and this is kind of a not necessarily a great thing that I do, but I do sometimes test to see if those meaties are real, right? So especially in this situation, right? So after the DI here, right? So no setup, no anything, just a manually timed button, right? Coming in. It's hard to react here because you don't necessarily know. But you could have attempted to mash against this, right? Right there, right? And be like, oh, you'd probably get counter hit, honestly, but it could be something you try every once in a while to mash on wake up, especially against a Terry that's doing this, right? So, maybe not in this situation, but if the Terry does it again later on, that might be something to consider, right? It's like, oh, is he just going for raw overheads without a setup at all, or a drive rush to get plus frames? Might be worth trying to mash through it, right? So, all right, react to this one good. Side switch or SPD? Oh, okay, side switch. All right, so not really a good Oki situation with that drive rush, but your meter's kind of low, so I don't hate this decision. I think jumping is correct here. The Terry had been kind of not really. Let's see. Oh, okay. I was gonna say I don't think they were really throwing as many fireballs, so it's probably fine to try to jump here because the spacing allowed you to do that.
Yeah.
Body splash probably hits if you did it, but anyway.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he does anything. He just dashes, right? So anyway, tech happens. Yeah, this time he tried to react, or maybe he was just letting that rip and he counter hit him here. Alright, on his footsies. Ooh, that's unfortunate. So, you know, again, spacing thing, whiffing that button in particular is kind of rough. Although, that button's pretty fast, right? So, this isn't really a whiff punish in particular. This is more of a space thing, right? So, if you look at what actually happened here, you kind of walk up into a space where the Terry, like, if you had pressed nothing, the Terry whiffs this button, right? I think he was kind of preempting you here a little bit, so. Ooh, SPD? Oh, back throw, okay.
Yeah.
Alright. Ooh, blocked? Yeah. That's
tough.
So here's kind of an interesting situation, right? So you have him in the corner here. Right, so from here, you do have some plus frames because obviously you just threw him. So you could go into, like, I think headbutt reaches from here, right? Let's see.
It should.
Let's see. Maybe not. Maybe not. I could be wrong.
I don't know. It's not that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So, something to consider after that particular back throw, right? I think that's his main back throw, right? I don't think there's like that's not the side switchy one. It's just the regular back throw, right? So something to consider doing there, right? Just doing this, right? Because that's gonna land. Terry has to respect that, I think. If we look, let's see. Okay. Oops. So I think there might be a little bit of a gap. So if the Terry has decided to not press there, if they don't wake up mash, I think that will beat your headbutt. But it's tough to mash in that situation, right? So all right. Okay. I think I have the wrong round here. All right, so right here in this situation, right, you're thinking, oh man, I gotta press a button or something. I would say that given the spacing and the situation, you definitely want to try to press a light instead of a medium here.
Okay.
Right. Even if he jumps, right, you press a light instead, you're gonna recover in time to lariat, right? So, that's something you'll have to consider, right? Like, people are gonna neutral jump you in the corner, I think, as you're a grappler, right? So.
Right.
That's just how people are trying to get out of the SPD. Because right here, it's like, oh man, he's going to SPD me, right? Like, this is going to suck, so I got to jump. So if you're going to go for something here, I think a light's probably more appropriate, right? So if you hit the light here, you definitely have enough time to lariat, right? So, yeah. Anyway. All right, take the crack shoot. All right, and then the wake up, or not wake up, but the kind of reversal level 2, right? As soon as you get press button, so
I was thinking he was gonna try to crack shoot again.
Yeah, or just something,
like that,
because he just hit you, right? So yeah. So I think, like, if I were to kind of break down what happened here, like, a lot of the meter usage I think was correct, but I do think that some of the drive rush heavy punch spacing, if you're gonna use that more, needs to be cleaned up a little bit, right? Be a little bit closer or farther depending on what the Terry is doing. I don't think this Terry threw a ton of fireballs, right? So through like one, maybe. So at least in this round. So what that does mean is that you would be able to kind of get away with just drive rush heavy punch, right? He's not really contesting your space that way, right? So so yeah, I think you end up kind of losing it because you go for the hard read on the button and it ends up not working out, right? It's really what I think, because that end of that round really goes either way, right? So
yeah.
All right, let's get into this one. All right, so the Terry has clearly gone for some sort of shimmy option after it's like tick throw setups into shimmy, right? He's plus backs up, right? I think that it is something you'll have to try to notice more and more, because these opportunities as you climb up higher and higher tend to go away, right? So if you see the Terry going for this type of shimmy option, definitely want to try to catch him low or something. You could also, I think, potentially SPD depending on how close they are after the tick throw. So from this range, I think is totally SPDable, right? So you block, right, and then you just SPD from right here, right? So
definitely in the, at least light range,
yeah. So from right, there, right? So let's see if I can do this. Well, you know what I mean. I think this will work, right? So,
Yeah.
It wasn't counter hit obviously because they're backing up, but they do have to backdash if they want to avoid that, right? So that is something that you can incorporate more if character or people are going for this sort of drive rush jab into shimmy. If you're not like, I'm wondering why this Terry did this because you didn't delay tech at all, right? Like I don't think you tech
Right.
often, generally speaking, right? So what he should be doing is actually throwing you. Try to get you to delay tech, right? So like, anyway, but that is something that Geef can do, right? So any sort of -5 situation, or when they're backing up, when they're close like that, if you recognize that they're going for some sort of shimmy, you can SPD them for the most part, right? They'd have to backdash out of that, and if they do that, they give up their shimmy opportunity, right? So
Yeah.
something to consider. And I'm just happy to got that SPD off. Not gonna lie to you. All right. So anyway, he shimmies you here. Again, you can also do like a low here if you read shimmy, but I think SPD is probably your best bet, right? It's just hit him with it, right? So. At any rate, you get him with a counter hit, stand media punch into the target combo, so good stuff. All right, Terry doesn't space his heavy kick correctly here, or he tries to wake up what it looks like. Okay. Tries to check. Too close, right? Because this thing reaches like across the half the screen, right? So you're standing here, and like the hitbox ends up all the way in front of Terry's face, right? So gets hit. All right, good, right? So back up here, just waiting for him to do something, and assuming he might wake up with it or whatever. Good. Okay. So I like the idea. I think this is correct in terms of like the option to choose going for a meaty here. The Terry ends up DPing you, but that's life, right? He has to do that. He has to make that guess, right? So drive rush low. Ooh. He dropped that twice now, huh? Oh. Okay. All right, Terry, I see you. Just out there letting that rip, huh? Okay, good DP from him. Yeah, nice recognition. Now this time you are minus, right? So you have to respect what happens next. Unfortunately, so you went for like a what was this? A wake up SPD?
Yeah.
A reversal SPD, yeah. So this is tough, right? You were minus here, unfortunately, so that's why this didn't work, right? So if you were +2, this actually would have worked. But unfortunately, it was a drive rush, right? So you get kind of get stuffed, right? So
makes sense.
Ooh, very nice. So that's good recognition, I think. The Terry had been pressing a lot of like stand heavy kick and non-cancelable buttons into you in the corner, so DI makes sense to me. Ouch.
Drop the SPD, yeah.
That's life, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So good. Ooh. Terry had you there. That's game, right? Or should be. Nice. So, yeah, I mean, that was totally good, I think. Like, the drive rush, what are the... I was like, there's another round here. I don't know why I went into that. Okay. Replay review. Capcom replay reviewer. Alright, so that drive rush SPD is really good, though, right? You had been using the drive rush heavy punch for the most part, so they're conditioned to kind of block that from that range, so SPD makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay, so again, I think this is just a spacing thing, right? Terry's not really whiff punishing here, right? No one's whiff punishing a stand medium punch from you. So this is just means you were standing a little too far when you pressed your button, right? So like, if you look at the space here, right? If you had continued walking forward, so Terry backs up a few more frames and then presses right here, right? So if you continue walking forward without, without pressing the button, I think you get tagged. Like you're still gonna block probably if you were, walking and blocking, but you get tagged by a stand heavy kick, right? So it's just an unfortunate space thing. So that just means you do have to be careful about when you press the button. It is tough to, like, the hardest part I think about spacing is that both characters are moving, right? So if you, if you assume they're gonna move forward and they don't, that's when you whiff the button and get punished, right? So. So, Oh, it doesn't get the pickup. Ooh. Alright. Turret combo doing work for you. Okay. Alright, so again, I think the space in there for that was actually okay. The Terry doesn't do anything. Let's see. Although, this is kind of an interesting option, and it's kind of interesting that Terry chose this because the last time he did this, you SPD'd him. Right? So, like, I don't know how he was able to not choose a non-SPD option, because if he neutral jumps here to avoid the SPD, he actually comes down on top of your stand heavy punch, right? So
right.
that would have beaten both of these options, right? So, So you're plus, but you get hit. Oh, okay, you're trying to jab. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Fortunately, get thrown. Ooh. Right, so that's the downside of that, right? So if you whiff that,
yeah,
and like something that'll happen too. And I don't think Terry did quite a good job of this, but he's kind of already standing outside of that range.
Yeah.
Right, he doesn't have to move all that much to react to that, right? So from this situation here, you do have to, I guess you have to make sure, because you don't, you know, it's a DI like pushback, and he kind of jumped, right? So it probably not something you run into all that often or labbed out. So going for this is probably okay to try it, but recognizing the spacing here and maybe letting your drive rush slide a little bit more before you start charging the heavy punch might not be a bad idea, because Terry's knocked down, right? He can't really do anything here. Because normally what it looks like you do is you immediately charge the heavy punch here, right? So I think for Geef, well, let's see if this works or not. You could probably delay the heavy punch a little bit here, right? So let's see what happens. No, I was holding forward. Right? Like you can delay out of the drive rush a little bit. You don't have to do it immediately, right? So it could be something that you kind of adjust the distance a little bit. But again, you have to be careful, right? Because if the Terry, this would work because the Terry is knocked down, right? So you can kind of get away with that. But if the Terry was not knocked down, right, you get checked. Right? So you do have to consider that. So, first get whip punished, picks it up this time, get dunked. Okay, so this is pretty standard stuff, I think. For fireball characters, right? They'll throw a fireball, drive rush behind it. The Terry's not really paying attention to his meter, so he throws this and burns out for this. But this is pretty standard, right? So if you see the fireball coming like that, it's very difficult to jump behind someone drive rushing here. So I think like a better option in this situation, given the Terry fireball is like the full screen one, it's probably just neutral jump, right?
Yeah.
So it'd probably land down there. I think the Terry is not going to be close enough to really DPU, right? So it could be something to consider. It's very difficult, right? You can't parry here, right? Because you'll burn out if you don't perfect parry it.
Right.
So neutral jump. Right, because this is exactly what he wants, right? He wants you to forward jump here. I think this would have actually killed you had he gotten a full hit of the heavy tackle here. So. And then I think he just jumps at you, right? So.
Yeah.
Alright, so anyway, I think that for the most part, though, the neutral game that you're playing in particular is still pretty solid. I would think that the adjustments, if you wanted to go forward from here, the main things would be to start incorporating more of the stand heavy, or it's not stand heavy, sorry, the stand medium kicks and the crouching medium punches to try to create more space for yourself, right? So, like Geef definitely, like as he walks up, controls, like threatens a lot of space, right? Because his normals are so big, they're so long, right? Like they come out and there's like hitboxes out for a million years, right? It's so hard to whiff punish him, right? Because his distance is so far. You kind of have to make a little bit of a read. So what you can do is you can use more of those buttons to kind of approach in a more stable-ish manner, right? Because like when you use the drive rush, it works, and when it works well. But if you're getting checked, right, it can be hard for you to get in, right? So Geef's biggest thing, I think, is just walking forward, right? Being able to contest space that way, right? Again, and the two games and the two replays we just watched, myself and this one here, didn't do a lot of zoning, right? So you can't necessarily use that drive rush through the zoning every time, right? So what'll happen is like the zoner will start kind of faking fireballs and doing stuff to kind of get you to drive rush, and then they'll check you with like a sweep or something, right? Like a guile sweep that reaches across the screen, or like something else like that, right? So I think a more stable way to play would be to incorporate the walk-in buttons, right? So you do use stand medium punch very effectively, right? You're able to whiff punish with it and get counter hits and stuff, counter poke with it, so it's really good. The thing that using those buttons really helps with, though, is that as you move forward now, that's going to elicit a response from your opponent, right? So like you walk forward, now they have to start backing up because you're like, oh man, I've been getting hit by this guy's stand medium kick. And then all of a sudden they back up into your drive rush stand heavy punch range, right? And then bam, right? It's perfect spacing for it. They can't check it. They have to block or take or parry, right? So it makes the drive rush stuff better if the neutral game aspect is used more, right? So you didn't use a ton of those buttons because drive rush is working for you here. But you know, so if you wanted to think about how to open people up more, right, and be able to control that space, that's how you would do it as Geef, right? So you'd walk forward, press those buttons, contest the space, get your opponent to do something other than try to contest you, and then when they back up into that space where you can drive rush at them, then you can do it, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
that would be like what I think the next steps would be for you here, because I feel like, and we didn't see it too much in this game, in the previous game, but like I feel like your corner pressure is typically fine, at least in the 3 or 4 interactions we had. But that's because Geef's corner pressure is basically a headbutt, right? So immediate headbutt,
Right.
and guess for game, right? And I think that's perfect, right? That's exactly how you want to play Geef. It's just that, you know, there's not a lot of nuance to it in particular because you throw the headbutt, it's plus, you guess SPD, or you guess, you know, it's not a lot of nuance you have to guess, right? That's just what it is. So being able to do that is great. So for Geef, though, the problem is being able to get them to that spot in the first place, right? So doing those things, I think, will help a ton. And then corner defense, right? We talked a little bit about it. Again, it's very difficult as Geef to play that because you don't have the reversal, right? So you do have to rely on some of these more like option selecty type defensive options. So delay text, delay jabs, just blocking, jumps, that type of thing. I do think that forward jump with Geef is particularly effective because body splash is kind of ridiculous, right? So you can jump forward and you can catch them like as they're moving forward with a button, you can catch them, right? So that is something you can consider adding if you read throw, right? So if you're reading throw, go for the jump, right? Or the backdash, I think is something that I've seen Geefs do as well. You know, it's kind of a harder read, but so is jumping, I guess. It's just that the jump reward is way better, right? So like if you jump and land body splash, that's a headbutt into a guess, right? SPD chance. So, you know, that's something I think you probably want to add to that. Because again, a lot of players will start doing, you know, the light string pressure that I was doing to you, where they'll start, you know, doing light strings until you block everything, and then they'll start throwing you, right? And then once you start teching, that's when you get shimmied after 1, 2, or 3 lights, right? And that's when it's like, oh man, I don't know what to do, especially until you get level 2. But it's even worse for Geef because the level 2, if I land a meaty jab, like I'm gonna recover in time to block that as well, right?
Yeah.
So, it's tough. It's tough to be Geef in the corner. So you do have to unfortunately make a read on what they're gonna do. Now the good thing though is that as Geef and the way the game works here is if you're able to tech or block out a light string, typically they're pushed back far enough where you're actually able to start contesting things again, right? Because again, Geef has long range buttons, right? So he doesn't necessarily need to move forward all that much to contest, which means he can press from where he's standing, which means that it's kind of difficult to counter poke that, right? So if you can delay, you know, again, the point of defending the corner there is just so you get back to neutral, right? So you can play that game again. So if you can defend from there, that's when those other buttons I was talking about become even more important, right? Because you can't drive rush from that situation, get checked. So if you can use those buttons in the corner effectively as well, right? Because you're getting used to using the spacing and all that, it's going to help you get out of the corner more often, right? You'll be able to fight out of the corner in a stable-ish manner, right? So you could, you know, obviously go for the hard reads, right? Hit the, you know, go for the D-rev, go for the jump or whatever else. You can do that too. But obviously there's the downside is that you take a little more risk, right? So, yeah. I think that's, again, I don't necessarily play Geef, but this is how I would defend as a Geef player without those tools, right? So like, you know, can EXCP, reversals, all that all day. So you have to respect that, players have to respect that, right? But that's the downside of Geef. He doesn't have, you don't have to respect him that way in the corner until he has level 3, right? So,
Right.
but yeah, that's the nature of nature of his game.
Right.
So yeah, any other questions you have or anything you can think of at the moment?
No, I guess like feel like I guess the other thing I've been trying to sort of work on incorporating more into my game are some of particular the standing light buttons. I feel like I don't use them all that much. So I feel like especially there, I feel like there's certain matchups where, especially like standing light kick, I feel like I should be using more. But
Yeah.
I think that's just getting a feel for some specific matchups there.
Yeah, typically for like a stand light kick, especially for Geese, right? Because it does go kind of far. And it's fairly quick. I mean, fairly quick in terms of Geef buttons. Right? I think it's still like a 6 or 7 button, but typically for those type of buttons, it's usually some sort of counter poke, right? So
Yeah.
what you're trying to do with those is you try to walk up and contest a heavy from somebody, right? So like if Ken is walking up and doing nothing but stand heavy punches or something, you would walk up and contest his 10 framer with your 6 or 7 framer, right? So something like that. It's typically what I see it used for is be able to check those buttons coming in. And again, what that ends up doing is it forces the opponent to do something else, right? So like if I want to land my stand heavy punch on you, I walk up, and every time I walk up to do it, I get checked. Oh crap! Now I have to do something else, right? So once your opponent has to do something else, then you can adjust to their having to back up with your own offense, whatever that happens to be, right? Maybe you walk in, they back up, and you hit a tag them with a low. Or maybe you're able to tag them with like the overhead or something from there, right? Like just wheel kick as they're backing up, they have to, or whatever. The spacing works out and all that. So, but yeah, typically for Geef lights, because they're because they're so slow, right? You do have to use them more in that manner. Although I think Geef's stand heavy or stand light punch is plus on block, right? So you can definitely kind of throw that out. Although I think the the startup is kind of slow there too, right? It's like it's pretty slow overall. But you know, the range is kind of absurd, right? So you can kind of throw it out to check things, right? So I think you do get a chain from that though, right? From the light punch, if I'm not mistaken. So
okay. I think like crouching light punch into light punch, and then like crouching light kick also chains into the other lights. Yeah.
Right. You can just chain into So it is something worth, I think, working through in terms of the spacing. I do think that like that would probably be the next thing to add. I think for right now, you're probably better spending time on just using like the stand medium kicks and the crouching medium punches, right? Be able to use those more in your game as necessary, right? You do a good job with stand medium punch, and I think that's perfect, right? Good button, good disjoint, right? A little slow, but you use it effectively. So otherwise, that's all I can really think of in terms of like how you were getting hit, right? A lot of times it's in the games we watched and we played, a lot of times when you're getting hit is from the drive rush, right? And because you're not using a lot of buttons right now, you're not getting whiff punished a ton. You're just getting checked on drive rush, right? So if you run into somebody that is able to check that consistently, then your game kind of gets shut down, right? Which is why I was saying like incorporating more of the normal buttons to try to walk people down and control that space will help in that regard, right? So, because I'm sure you run into people where like you try to do drive rush, they check it every time. You jump, you get anti-aired, right? Like how the hell do I get into this guy? And unfortunately for Geef, the answer is walk forward, parry fireballs, and press buttons when close, right? That's just how it is. Because eventually you are going to get him in the corner, right? Like if you keep walking, they have like your opponent has to back up against Geef, right? They have to do that. They can try to zone to keep you away, but you're still going to gain space for the most part, unless it's like a JP or something, right? Or Sim, I suppose. But eventually you have to get to a point where you're going to get close, right? And then from there you can try jumping or whatever. But I mean, using those buttons will help you do that more, less volatility overall with the drive rush, right? So you just have to walk forward. You don't have to worry about getting checked because there's nothing to check. You just, you might get whiff punished more because you're adding buttons, but that's Street Fighter 6, right? that's the 2D fighters that add footsies aspect, right?
Right.
Cool. Anything else you want to ask or thinking about?
I think that's all the stuff that was at the front of my mind for now.
Cool. Do you have time to run it back? You want to run another set?
Yeah, for sure.
Let me open this up. Leave the mics hot this time, but yeah, I mean, again, like I don't hate anything you're doing. I think a lot of it is good. It's just that if you wanted to reduce the volatility you're probably running into, it's just the drive rush piece that has to be adjusted for.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, man. Let's leave the mics hot because it's more interesting this way.
Yep. All right.
I'll try to clean up my gameplay. It's been a little loose lately.
Yeah.
Oh, it's tough. The one whiff, right?
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
shimmy, yeah. Yeah, that's how it goes. Oh,
Oh.
oh. Oh. Yeah. But you see what I mean, though,
Yeah.
is that if I adjust to the spacing you want to play at, right, like your drive rush gets checked, right? Like I'm intentionally
Right.
backing up as you're walking forward, or I'm walking forward and contesting you so you feel uncomfortable, right? So now it's like, oh, now I have to back up, and then all of a sudden you're at the space where the drive rush is gonna get checked, and then you do it and get checked, right? So. Ooh, watch the text. And Geef health means I have to go to level 1 there. So
Yeah.
pretty sure DP there's not gonna kill you, but
I don't think it would have.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Oh, the reset. Cheeky. Oh, nice.
Thanks.
Trying to back up and then press the button and didn't work out for me.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think that something like that happened. Like one of the replays that we didn't end up looking at was just the Terry. I hit him with that like 5 times in a row. He was just like
Flummoxed.
really insistent. Yeah.
Oh, that's not the right button to press there. Uh-oh. Nice.
Hey.
Nice. So yeah, I really can't throw a fireball in that situation, so that was a pretty bad fireball, but good jump on your part there.
Thanks.
Nice. Geef's hurtbox must extend a good amount on that on that drive rush.
It does, yeah.
Oh, a little bit late, I think. I got away with one there.
Hmm.
Nice. Cool. Oh, I was not standing in the right spot for that. Oh. Oh! Caught the backdash. That was sick. I thought you'd go for like an SPD there or something. I thought it was close enough.
Yeah, yeah. I think if you hadn't, it definitely would have gotten you.
Yeah, the whiff stuff is always tough in this game.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of it's just I just need to clean up my spacing a lot, like you were saying.
Yeah, most of your problems I think start to go away once you play in an appropriate space.
Yeah. Ooh, nice.
Oh,
No.
I was like, is he gonna go for it? I don't know.
I was afraid to let it rip. Yeah.
Yeah, see, that counter poke is really good for you, right? You use that really well. So if the rest of your buttons are used like that manner, then you'd be good.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Yeah, that was better, right?
Yeah.
In terms of response. Oh, I didn't press. Nice. Ooh, he didn't kill me.
Oh.
Oh! I thought you were gonna wake up SPD. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Felt a little risky in Burnout.
Uh-oh. Have to burn this a little early because I'm not gonna get a chance otherwise.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Nice, nice. Yeah, I had to at some point.
Yeah. And I think it was worth trying, right? Because you have a round to give here and all that, so.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the jump, too. I didn't really talk about that.
Yeah.
It's so scary, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, that time I
Nice,
should see that
nice.
checked. But yeah, you can see like if your opponent's able to kind of stay in the right space, it can be very difficult to use your drive rush to get in.
Yeah.
But it did work though, right? I mean, there were definitely times where I was not standing in the right space and you're able to get in, right? I couldn't really check it and all that stuff. So yeah, I do think that again, if you're able to contest better with like some of Zangief's longer range normals, and able to kind of poke me or not force me to block and all that, it can be easier to move me back to the corner, right? Because you saw when I'm in the corner, I'm fighting for my life, right? Like I have to block headbutts and hell stabs and SPDs and all that stuff. Like that stuff is hard to deal with, right? But again, you saw how like if you weren't able to get in with a drive rush, it kind of shut down your game plan overall. You had to start jumping and doing other stuff, which Zangief does have to do, don't get me wrong. But if my mental stack as your opponent is just the drive rush and anti-airs, it's a lot easier to deal with, right? So yeah, but yeah, man, cool. So any other follow-up or last minute questions before we wrap up here?
No, yeah,
No.
that was really helpful. Just to like actually break down some of the stuff that
Yeah.
like sometimes I don't know why it works, so
Mm-hmm.
it's good
Mm-hmm.
to
For sure.
actually understand that. Yeah.
For sure. And like, I say it all the time. I think I say it every stream. It really boils down to space, right? So all of your
Yeah.
options work better or worse in certain space and ranges, right? So like, being able to stand in the right spot in the first place for that stuff to work is paramount, right? So yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, again, if your playstyle right now, if you incorporate instead of doing the drive rush, incorporate stand medium kicks and crouch medium punches and stuff on top of like your stand medium punch usage overall. I think
Hmm.
you're gonna find yourself cornering people a lot more, right? So
Yeah.
cool, man. Cool. So yeah, feel free to hang out. I'm just gonna wrap up on stream here, or if not, you can take off for sure. I don't you don't hang out any more than you need to, but yeah, good session, man. Glad you're able to
Yeah.
make it. I'm glad it was helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much.
Yep. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
All right, so it's been sit down and shut up. Not a great showing for me in the morning or morning, early set. Excuse me. Um, but there's always stuff to talk about, even if you 3-0 me on stream and embarrass me as the coach or whatever. But again, I think that it's always good to have a second opinion or at least someone look over your gameplay. Because even though Braviator destroyed me in that early set, just being able to pick apart some of the things that were working and some things that could be cleaned up helped a ton, right? So anyway, this has been Sit Down and Shut Up. Appreciate you guys watching all your chats and messages and stuff. I don't always respond during the training session. I know folks were talking about how how good Braviator is and all that, so Braviator getting some glaze on this one. But anyway, this has been Sit Down and Shut Up. I run this through the Fight Rise Discord. So Fight Rise is a fighting game community. They do bi-weekly tournaments. They have a 7-round Swiss for folks in the master and above, and if you're below master in the ranks, you actually get put into a round robin pool with 8 or 10 other players. You get to play 7 rounds. Good way to get some tournament sets, tournament bracket pressure, and all that good stuff. They do that every other Tuesday. You have to join the Discord to see when that's actually coming. So let me put the Discord stuff in chat. So yeah, if that sounds interesting to you, please join the Fight Rise Discord. Take a look at that and look for their One Fight Stand series. Right, that's the bi-weekly tournament. Again, rank separated pools, so no matter what your rank is, you'll be able to have a good time. Also, they do community showcase events through their Urge to Fight series. You can check that out at twitch.tv/FightRiseFGC. I did some commentary for them recently. They do community showcases, right? So showcasing some folks from the community that have been showing up to One Fight Stand and put them elevate them to a bigger stage. They also sometimes do charity events for this. So I think last December they did a charity event where they raised a bunch of money for the Raiden Foundation. So really good stuff there. Really entertaining stream. If that's something you're interested in, again, take a look at the Discord for the dates for the next one. I also like to plug their Big League KO series. So Big League KO is a league format that we've been running. You run an 8-person pool, and you get 7 rounds of round robin spread out over the course of 5 weeks. You get 2 matches a week, and they're both first to 5. So you get some longer sets with folks. It's a good way to get into like tournament pressure sets, right? They've been a really big hit. League format is great for folks that, like me, have stuff to do outside of gaming, unfortunately, right? I wish I didn't, but have to have grown-up responsibilities and stuff. So you get flexible scheduling with your opponent. It's only 2 matches a week, so it's perfect for that. And then at the end of the season, there's a postseason where you get some folks, and they'll do some double elimination, single elimination brackets, as well as a finals that gets broadcasted through an Urge to Fight stream, right? So really good time. Check it out. If any of these things interesting you, again, please join the Discord. Slots do fill up pretty quick for Big League KO. It's limited availability, so if there's something you want to do, check out the Discord. The season is going right now, so you probably have a couple of weeks before the next one, but pay attention to when that is coming out. It's going to be announced. If you liked what I'm doing here and you want a session like this for yourself, again, join the Fight Rise Discord. I say that a lot here. Take a look at a channel called Sit Down and Shut Up. There'll be a pinned message with some instructions on how to get a session like this for yourself. You'll be able to sign up and do all that stuff. Also part of the Newbie Fight Club. So Newbie Fight Club is a fighting game community focused on getting newer players into the game. They run lobby nights every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They do a tournament, tournament style. I think it's double elimination for the most part. They do round robins also, but they do like a tournament bracket thing every other Friday, I believe it is. So take a look at the Discord for the dates for that. It's been posted in the chat. And once a month they do a modern only tournament. So if you play modern and you want to get into a tournament with your fellow modern enjoyers and lovers, you modern users, if you will, take a look. Once a month they run that modern tournament. It's a good time. We've had nothing but positive feedback from this stuff. So I think Flash Galaxy is probably in chat, or was at one point, runs this for us. So they do a really good job at this, and it's a lot of fun. Meet a lot of good players and all that. They do also run other games, so like Virtua Fighter, I think Fatal Fury also, and some other, and they also do Fight K Classics on Thursdays every once in a while. So if you're a fan of any fighting games at all, and you were looking for people to play, both of these Discords, that are listed here have people that play all those games. So I'm sure you'll be able to find someone to play with, and have a good time and all that. I'm also active on both these Discords, so if you want to talk to me directly or reach out to me or try to get sets to me, whatever, reach out to me in either of those Discords. I'm more than happy to try to run games. So this has been Sit Down and Shut Up. Again, I really appreciate you guys' chats and likes and follows and all that. If you do want to look at past sessions as well, take a look at the description, or if you're watching this on Twitch, I guess take a look at the my profile. There's a link to my YouTube channel, so you can take a look at all the past sessions to see if this is something you'd be interesting for you, or if you'd like to hear me talk, I suppose. Again, thank you guys so much, and have a good night.